it's Joseph here for Zenny62. So, as you are might be well aware of, that on Friday I attended the grand opening of Avengers campus, and so I decided to do this live stream to talk about the experience I had, the do's and the don'ts, and what you all should do if you decide to attend Disneyland Avengers campus. Now, first, I want to start off for those of you coming from a long distance, whether it's Northern California, out of state. Uh, there is on June 15th, for those who are coming out of state, there's supposed to be a reopening of the state of California, allowing out of state guests to attend Disneyland and most of the theme parks here in Southern California. Now, what's occurred in the last week or so, which is not being talked about, but it should be a concern for those out of state guests as well as those coming from a distance, that Cal OSHA has rejected the state's claim to reopen fully, specifically without wearing any face masks. So Governor Newsom indirectly had stated that what initially was planned with reopening the state and some of the things they had projected to do may get pushed back. So, what does this mean for those attending theme parks, specifically Disneyland or Avengers campus? Well, though people are being quiet about it and waiting, taking on a wait to see approach, there is talk that the restrictions will continue. They might bump up the percentage of people that are being allowed to come in. Um, Now, when I was there on Friday, though Disney themselves would not talk about how many people were let in or how many people were not, if they were following the state guidelines, they're about 25%. It felt like there was more than 25% there, to be honest. And so that's one thing. That's one thing that you should consider is whether or not the availability of those tickets will be there, because what's happened before, as many of you know who's had a pass, you can go whenever you want, whatever time you. But now, because of the COVID-19 restrictions, you have to set a date and a time to go in. And what I mean by time is you can choose which park you want to go to first. And so if you buy what's called a park hopper ticket, which allows you to go both to Disneyland and California Adventure, you have to pick initially first what park you want to attend to first, because you're not allowed to cross over a park hop until 1 p.m. So if you're fortunate enough to get the California Adventure ticket first, it's one ticket, but when you go online or in the app, it'll ask you which one you want to go first or which one's available for you to go and choose first. You can attend that in the morning. It does allow you to go back and forth after you do the initial stay in one park for about 4 or 5 hours. Then that gives you enough time by 1 o'clock to leap over to Disneyland and vice versa. So also consider that. Now, for those who have some medical conditions or maybe have a hard time walking, keep in mind that there is currently no trams available. So that long tram route that you take from the parking structure to the front of the gates, you have to walk all that. And, if you're not used to walking in a long time, I know when I went, it was the very first time I went anywhere in a year and a half. And so that's a long walk. Obviously, get prepared to walk more once you're in the theme park. But also be advised that if you do have some issues with regards of walking or some medical conditions, unlike before, there at the parking structure, you're able to rent the EVT scooters that allows you to basically ride up and down the tram route as well inside the theme park. So that might aid a lot of people there. Now, a lot of people have asked, what time should I get there? And that's very simple. Try to get there, or at least around the general vicinity, as early as you can. They're real strict in not allowing people to go into the parking lot. That might change, but until this week, They won't open the gates until about 7:30, and there are blockades that won't allow you to get in line to go into the Disney parking. So if you're around the vicinity, you could park somewhere, get breakfast, and come back. I know some people were there at 5 in the morning, and those people that were there at 5 in the morning, you're thinking, well, I thought they weren't able to wait. These people were dropped off. So on Harbor Boulevard, there's a drop off section. You can't park there, it's only to drop off guests and quickly leave the area. Now, a lot of these people, a lot of vloggers that wanted to get inside Avengers Campus first, or be one of the ones allowed into Avengers Campus, were parked outside the harbor entrance at 5 o'clock. And not necessarily car wise, they were parked, but they parked themselves out in front of the entrance barricades and waited till somebody was able to let them in. And you go through a screening process. Of course, they always check your bags, but now they check your condition, whether or not you had a fever or not. They do a temperature check. And so now that walk is a lot shorter than walking along tram route. So what I suspect is happening is a lot of people are realizing, well, if I get dropped off and have somebody else park, then it'll be easier for me to get into the park first, the amusement park first. And that's what a lot of the vloggers did. They had someone else that was with them park the car in the parking structure, and they themselves waited in front of harbor gates to walk that shorter distance into the park. And so once you were inside the park, as I streamed that day, is that it got filled up relatively pretty quick. I was one of the first ones in that park, in that gate that opened up. It was technically not to be open till 9 a.m. But once when I got in there, there was quickly a huge line that formed. That if you saw the live stream, I was already into an hour waiting in that line, and I wasn't even nowhere close to getting into Avengers Campus. So eventually, I did make it in, and if you saw some of the live streams, it, it's an exciting place to be in. Remember that particular land covers what used to be Bugs Land, and so the footprint of that land is not humongous, but the way they incorporated the buildings that stretches into the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is now incorporated into Avengers Campus. Prior to that, that was just a standalone building, the Guardians of the Galaxy ride. And now that's incorporated into Avengers Campus. So it just seemed a little bit bigger than what it has been. And so what I want to tell you some of the do's and don'ts when you go there. I did mention the parking situation. Be prepared that once you get in there, that you may not even get inside Avengers Campus land. You might not be able to order any food, and you might not be able to get into any rides. And let me explain that. At 7 a.m., the park allowed you to start setting up the app to request a virtual queue for the Web Slingers ride, which is the Spider-Man ride. And by 7:02 a.m., or not even 7:02, it wasn't even 7:01, and everything got full. So if you weren't one of the first people that got lucky to fill up the Web Slinger virtual queue portal, you weren't going to ride that ride at all. They gave you option to try again at 12 p.m. In anticipation that some of the demand would decrease, and obviously that wasn't the case. So at 12 o'clock, if within a minute, all the queues, the virtual queues, standby queues were all filled up. So fortunately, I was able to go on that ride, and I was able to give you and film the full ride for you. But I was very fortunate. There was a lot of people that never got into that land. By the time I was in there by 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, there was a 4-hour wait just to get into the land. And so be prepared at least for the foreseeable future that that's how it will be. The excitement, the anticipation of being there is not going to die down anytime soon. Um, I suspect it'd probably be towards the end of the year that things will be a lot more flexible. And that's just the unfortunate part of things. Now, with regards going back to the food, I did mention the virtual queues. Is again, it's one of those things where because of the COVID-19 restrictions, there are very few places, specifically in the California Adventure side of Disneyland, that allows walk-up orders or what they call standby orders. The majority of the food there, specifically in Avengers Campus, was all done through the mobile app in mobile orders. Now, if you didn't choose your food of what you wanted by 8 a.m., everything was sold out. The video that I did that showed me briefly going into Pim Test Kitchen, which didn't even want people to go in there that didn't already have a reservation. I kind of finagled my way to go in there to show you what I did show you on the video. But most people that were getting their food set the app and ordered their food items at 8 a.m. And when I shot that video, some of them were just receiving their food at 3 p.m. And like I said, by 8 o'clock, everything was sold out. Um, Now, for the average person, including myself, this doesn't make sense because you would think they would anticipate the demand not only for food, but for items that were sold, like the drinks. They had a tasting lab, which is just all alcoholic and some non alcoholic drinks. A Pims Test Kitchen, which had that huge chicken sandwich. It was a huge chicken patty with a little slider bun on top, and that was supposed to be the idea behind it is that Dr. Pym was playing around with food like he did with Ant-Man, making it large and making it small. And so that was the fun aspect of that test kitchen. So be prepared to have water with you and snacks or sandwich with you, because more than likely, if you didn't set everything up ahead of time or early that morning once you're there, you are not going to get anything to eat in that facility. Um, there are carts around the land that'll sell you pretzels, churros, soft drinks. But if you wanted something specifically from that Adventures campus, food wise, you need to do it no later than 8 a.m. I would do it as soon as they open up at 7. But again, at 7, you're fighting just to get a virtual queue for any of the rides. And you got to remember the fact that if people didn't get the virtual queues for web slingers, everybody was flocking over to the next best thing, which was Guardians of the Galaxy. So be prepared for that. Um, the other thing is cost. So Disney implemented a 5-tier ticket system. And so fortunately or unfortunately, the way that system works is that tier 1 is the lowest cost per park and incrementally goes up to tier 5. Now, being that Avengers Campus opened up, you are automatically in the tier 5. And for the summer, I don't think that's going to change. I suspect that lower tiers in terms of the cost to get in would only be in off-season time. Now that it's a summer, it's a peak season. So I suspect that the tier system will only go down to tier 4, tier 5. And tier 5 is the most expensive tier. For one park, it was a $154. If you want to do Park Hopper, it came out to $209. Now, if you plan to stay the whole day at California Adventure and not even go into Disneyland, it might be worth your while just to get that one day at California Adventure. I personally cannot handle being in California Adventure that long. For the exception of maybe web slingers or the rides in Adventures Campus, it's not really geared to something that I would enjoy personally. There are some cool rides like the Incredible Coaster and the Ferris wheel. But the beauty of going to that theme park is to go across to the Heritage Park of Disneyland. You can't beat that park, regardless of what they do in California Adventure. Disneyland's still the premier theme park of all theme parks. And so, crossing over to Disneyland, I've never seen Main Street so empty before in my life, especially being that it is technically summertime. The The beauty of that was it kind of harkened back to my childhood where it wasn't overly crowded or overly impacted. There were people scattered around, but it felt a sense of, I can breathe here. It was so crowded at Avengers Campus, which brought to mind, well, what happened to the social distancing. Um, what was my saving grace is that we're outside. I think if this was indoors, I really would have not enjoyed my time. I don't like being, especially with still dealing with COVID. There was a lot of people there. Thank God it was open air. You could always move to different parts of Avengers Campus where you could feel uh, even more open spaces, so you didn't feel constricted to getting too close to anybody. But going back to Disneyland, that was refreshing because I never seen that park that empty. And to go to any rides at Disneyland was relatively quick when you consider uh, how some of those rides took up to an hour to get onto. And so some of the changes that were made there were unique. They kind of redid the Haunted Mansion inside the graveyard scene. Wasn't able to do a lot. Um, and that's one thing I wanted to emphasize as well is that when you go there, be prepared to stay the whole day because it's virtually impossible to do many things throughout the whole day, especially when you have to sit and wait, especially when you're Avengers Campus to do things. For example, if you wanted to go into some of the gift shops at Avengers Campus, and there's one called Web Suppliers, which is supposed to feature things related to Spider-Man and the Spider-Man ride. That was an hour and a half to 2 hours at one point, and there is huge lines just to get into the store to look at something that you may or may not even purchase. Now, this store is tiny when you consider some of the big stores that they have around the park. That being that footprint of where they put Avengers Campus is not very huge, that reflected in what they had in terms of gift shops. And so keep that in mind if you don't want to wait. If you are able to go to downtown Disney, you can always pay $10 to park for downtown Disney and go downtown Disney, go to the World of Disney, where it's a huge gift store. It's a clothing store as well as toys and so forth. And you might be able to buy some Avengers Campus merchandise there. Now, a lot of people that I saw that I spoke to off camera and asked them, well, how did you get that shirt? Because the lines are way too long for anybody to wait. Me personally, for me to wait to try to see if I can get a T-shirt. So they had previously had been there, not at the Avengers Campus, but been in the theme parks since April. A lot of people, this is their second, third time to inside the theme park, and they purchased a lot of their merchandise that was related to Avengers Campus at that time. Um, and for those who are not familiar, inside California Adventure, they opened up a stage area called Stage 17, which a lot of productions were done there. They opened that out and made a indoor gift shop, a huge indoor gift shop, where they had exclusively all the Avengers Campus merchandise. Even that was a long line, even though that was far away from Avengers Campus or at a distance from Avengers Campus. And so that's something to keep in mind. If you're able to go and if you want to go to Avengers Campus all geared up in your Avengers Campus gear, Spider-Man gear, or whatever Avengers you want to represent, if you're able to go down to downtown Disney prior to that day of going into Avengers Campus, stop by the World of Disney or any other Disney related gift shop along downtown Disney, and you can pick up some of the merch there, or even at Disney stores. Now, the one thing that I was interested in trying to get was an Avengers Campus T-shirt that had the date of the grand opening. That shirt was pretty decent, but I don't know if it's worth the $40 they wanted for the shirt. And it was just a T-shirt, a gray T-shirt that said Avengers Campus with the blue logo and the date on it. There was no AP special merchandise, basically because they sunsetted all the AP passports. The great thing, though, if you were a AP holder last year, you're considered a legacy pass holder. And what Disney did, if you bought tickets for Avengers Campus, they extended your annual pass discounts till the end of the month. And what some of the cast members said is that they plan to continue that until they come out with an announcement of how they're going to treat uh, future pass holders or passes in general. It won't be the annual pass that we've all come to know. It'll be an incentive based pass. Don't know what exactly that means, but when I hear incentive based passes, to me that kind of rings that you're going to have to spend a lot more money to get some of the benefits you had previously gotten. And so that's also something you should keep in mind. Um, my overall thoughts about Avengers Campus, it was, the one thing Disney does is that it's the quality and the details that go into any land that they have. It is top notch quality. Um, every land or every facility they have there is meant for you to touch and feel, because nothing's done cheaply there, and they do spend uh, quite a bit of time in going over the specific details. There's a lot of hidden things in there that you might not even see the first couple of times. So throughout the land, there are little hidden, what they call hidden Mickey items, but as well as something that's related to Avengers Campus. There are little hints of maybe future things that are coming. And Disney has always done that. And the one unique thing about the Avengers Campus is that even though the footprint in that place is small, they do plan to expand Avengers Campus. I think they're into phase one, maybe going into phase two, with the proposed 4 phases of Avengers Campus. Eventually, they're going to build behind Guardians of the Galaxy, which right now was used as buildings for executives as well as a parking lot. And they plan to take that over and utilize um, the land there to expand Avengers Campus. And that would be another theme park ride. And it is expected for that to be a Quinjet ride. So take note of that. Um, let's go over the do's and don'ts again. Again, if you plan to go there anytime soon, be prepared to wait quite a while. I would encourage you that if it's necessary for you to go into the land, if you have kids and you're an adult, if you have one adult, park the car at Mickey's parking or Pixar parking, which is that huge, the other side of the park basically, and that long tram route. Get dropped off in front of Harbor Boulevard, have someone else park for you and wait for them to open those barricades, go through the checkpoints, and it's an easier and closer walk than walking that long tram route. And you might be able to get in there faster, sooner. Um, so I expect those of you who are coming, maybe not even planning to come anytime soon, but once you do, be prepared for that. Um, the hype for this is not going to die down anytime soon. It is Disney's hope that once they open up, they can allow more people into the park. But that particular land, I suspect, is going to be heavily impacted for a long period of time. So also keep that in mind if you don't feel that comfortable being around people. Now, Disney does a good job that everybody wears a face mask. And some of the cast members also said with regards to face masks, is that for whatever reason, if the state decides that they're more lenient with wearing a face mask outdoors, that all the Disney employees are still going to be asked to continue wearing the face mask or face shields. And you did see that throughout the whole park. There was nobody challenging Disney whether or not they're wearing a face mask or getting political about it. Everybody complied. That's the beauty of I've always found about Disney, is that the person next to you, you don't know what their thoughts are about any political affiliations. You don't know what their thoughts are about the vaccine. You don't know what their thoughts are about face masks. And the reason for that is that people just comply. They enjoy their time there. Disney has always been unique in that everybody from different parts and every walk of life just enjoy that theme park and want that experience. And so that's always been the beauty of Disneyland, Avengers Campus, California Adventure. So take heed with that if you are one of those people who are concerned with regards to how safe it is, there is a comfort level there and how strict they are. And the one thing Disney's always been good is sanitizing that place when you consider how many people are in there, the one thing Disney is you never see trash on the floor. They're constantly sweeping, cleaning, and sanitizing. And now with the COVID-19 restrictions, every maybe 20, 30 yards, there is a hand wash station where there's soap, there's water, you can wash your hands, there's paper towels throughout the theme park, there's hand sanitizer stations throughout the whole theme park. And I personally took advantage of that as much as possible. And I thought that was something that's really good about Disney. Um, and again, talking about the campus, it's something. It's a sight to see. Whether or not you're, one of the things that I enjoyed about the Avengers campus was the live shows. For so many years, they stopped doing as many live shows. Now, for Avengers campus, what I suspect is that since technically there's only one new ride, which is the Web Slinger ride, that they made a concerted effort to do more live shows. So you had the Doctor Strange show that's going on at his Ancient Sanctum, and that's a whole place unto itself. That it's a magical kind of sanctum area that just at nighttime just comes to life. You also have, of course, the Web Slingers ride, but in front of the Quinjet building, you have a complete Avengers show up, and there's a show presentation where you see Black Panther climbing and flying through the air, climbing up and down the walls. The same thing with Spider-Man. You see the animatronic, which if you see my live stream, that was on the second live stream. Once I was inside the park, you see Spider-Man fly through the air. And of course, many of you who may have seen that may be wondering, was that an actual person doing somersaults in the middle of the air, flying across buildings? That was actually an animatronic. And so the way they worked it out, so once the animatronic goes and flies through the air and lands safely, they have the actual person dressed up as Spider-Man come out and continue the show as if that was the Spider-Man that was flying through the air. And there's another part of the show where you see Spider-Man crawling down the side of the building on all fours. And so that was great because that's symbolic of what Spider-Man does. He climbs up and down on a wall, going flat down on all fours. So I don't know how many of you are on there. Doesn't look like it's too many. But if you had any questions, these are the time to ask any questions you want. But later on, if you guys had more questions or want to know more about the land, give me a call just to go over a few, or let me know on here in 1062. But to go over a few things is the 5-tier system. Take note of that. When you make a reservation, you have to make sure that the day that you want is actually a time that they have available for you. You got to remember that just because you buy a ticket doesn't necessarily mean you're able to reserve a particular date. Now, they are tweaking the app, so they're trying to consolidate buying a ticket and the reservation all in one. So now the app will essentially allow you to go to reservations first, hit that reservation button to see what's available or what park's available to go into. And if anything shows up that you're interested in, continue with the prompts, and that allow you to make a reservation, and not allow you to purchase the tickets for that particular reservation. Again, remember that you're going to be waiting quite a bit, especially in the summertime. Make sure you bring plenty of sunscreen, plenty of water, bring some snacks in case you're not able to buy anything there at Avengers Campus. And again, going over that if you want to buy any particular merchandise, remember for the foreseeable future, there's going to be an hour, 2-hour wait in some of the gift shops inside Avengers Campus. It might be to your benefit to go to outside of the theme park itself, maybe a Disney store, or maybe on Downtown Disney, the World of Disney, so that you can purchase some items there. And again, patience is a virtue when you go into these theme parks. Also be prepared, like I mentioned before, that you might not even get into any of the rides, the Web Slinger ride in particular. So please be patient, be cautious. Before I go, any last questions you have, please submit them. If not, I'll be ending the broadcast soon. Okay, well, this is Joseph for Zenny62. I can continue talking about this on another date if there's some interest, but just want to give you some information with regards to Avengers Campus or Disneyland in general. I do have some more footage, so I probably will drop that later on. But don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep it here on Zenny62.